Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the second Wasteless Café talk. So after the successful launch of the monthly Café series that we had last month, we are happy to drink our coffee again with you. I have mine here. I hope you also have yours. So let's look on the menu of the day. So the coffee of the day will be given today by Alice Casiraghi from Policy Milano. And she will talk about reframing the food system for circularity. And then you will have the opportunity to ask your questions and share your opinions on this topic. Then it comes the bill, of course. So we would like to hear from you. And please do not forget to leave your tip. And we will end the coffee talk by presenting the next month's specialty. So stay with us, relax, and enjoy your coffee. And now, Alice, I give it to you. I hope you can share.
Yes, I think I can.
Yeah, you should be possible to share.
Okay, give me a second.
Yeah, I think.
This is it. You're seeing the slides, yes.
Yes.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Alice Casiraghi. I'm a designer by training, but I've been working in the past for 3.5 years with the Food Policy of Milan on a project called Food Trails. We work with many stakeholders, universities, and 11 cities in Europe. Milan is the lead of this European project. It's on Horizon 2020. And we work on improving food systems of these cities with the support of the expertise of 4 professionals that represent the Food 2030 pillars of the European Union Farm to Fork strategy. I represent the circular economy pillar. Then we have one on climate, one expert on climate, one on nutrition, and one on communities and innovation. So my role is to visit the cities, understand what they're implementing in their living labs, what they're implementing in which activities they're implementing, and if their core focus is circularity, I support them in this effort with my advice, or if they're not focusing on circularity, I just try to keep them interested in the topic. And because some innovations can be focused on nutrition, for example, but cities should not forget that there are these 4 systemic pillars. And we found that this strategy is the first time that it's been applied in a European project. And it's quite interesting because cities keep constantly having this systemic perspective on innovation in their food policy, although they're very focused on one action that is mainly focused on one pillar usually. So it's a new approach. Why circular economy? Because circular economy can help us reduce up to 40% of the greenhouse gas emissions. We hear a lot in international talks about the energy sector, renewables, but then the way we produce things, the way we waste things, especially food. We know we waste a lot of food, and food creates methane when it's wasted. It's contributing a lot to climate change. So we should redesign the system, the whole system, so that waste is no more, basically, so that the resources that we use do not overshoot the budget that we have yearly, especially as we are many more billions on the planet. We have more disposable income. We can spend more. We have technology to produce faster, but this is putting more strain on the resources. So the idea is that we don't see waste as a concept anymore. Waste is nothing. Waste is something that has been misplaced. Waste is a new resource that should go somewhere else. And so following the 3 principles of circular economy, we should keep everything in use for as long as possible and regenerate the natural systems, which is something that is especially achievable when we talk about food systems, which is organic matter and not synthetic materials like plastic. The level of circularity today is decreasing because, again, we're many more billions and putting more strain on resources with our disposable incomes, but we should revert the trend. And what's missing still to achieve this circularity, but to achieve regeneration in general? According to the IPCC, we have a big gap in reskilling the workforce. So it's not enough that we say we need to be circular, but because there's a lot of people whose daily job is not involved traditionally in circularity and they don't even know the concept. So it's about recreating a new system where waste is no more. So we need new professionals. We need different professionals and retraining again of the workforce. We need to support the transition in two ways for the ones that cannot afford it locally, so in low-income households, and also internationally with global cooperation, the famous or infamous loss and damage fund that hasn't been so far respected by the developed countries. I would add that in the local food system, we need to redesign the system and reskill the workforce to have more workers in waste recollection, in food transformation, in food waste prevention, in developing new types of packaging, more logistics to coordinate the efforts to reduce waste. We need, for example, new labeling that prevents food waste. We need technologies to reduce the inefficiencies in the agricultural sector. We need a lot of this. And supporting farmers. In Europe, we've seen the big problem that is the miscommunication between politicians and farmers. When we say to a very traditional, but also a sector that is very much represented by lobbying, we tell them, oh, we shouldn't do this anymore because of the Green Deal. This adds up to a series of problems that have been lingering for long, and now we have farmers' protests all over Europe. So we need to make this transition together politically and industrially and with the agricultural sector. And we need cooperation on global supply chains, especially because we know food that we consume in Europe doesn't entirely come from Europe, especially the animal feed in our farms. So how do we reframe the system for circularity? We need diversification. So we need to reconnect more with local varieties to more diverse foods. We need to contextualize to Europe, which doesn't mean that we shouldn't import any more food. It's been studied that the miles that the food travels to get to our plate is not as much as a problem as the types of food. So less meat, less dairy, and more pulses, more varieties of food. But at the same time, we really need to contextualize the food system in the geography where we live, because this will help biodiversity, and this will help accept certain transitions. And it's important for the local production system. There's many systemic and compound effects in this. And we need to not just extract and use new resources, but we need to reuse more. It's been estimated by Project Drawdown that issues within the food systems are the ones that can limit climate change, mitigate climate change the most. So one of the main solutions is reducing food waste. So reducing and circularizing waste that happens in the food sector, and also having more plant-rich diets. Those are on top of the solutions to curb climate change, to mitigate what we're experiencing today. But there's lots of other issues related to the food system. For example, refrigerant management, which involves the cold chain and how we store foods in supermarkets, in our houses, in the industry, as well as in our private homes. And restoration of forests, which is kind of happening already in Europe. We need more clean cooking, silvopasture, peatland protection and rewetting. We need to retransform part of the agricultural land to give it back to biodiversity. And in order to do so, we need to reduce the strain on, we need to reduce different types of meats, or we need to have a farming system that is more interconnected, for example, in silvopasture with the wildlands. So new ways of doing agriculture and farming. I tried to be brief because I wanted to leave more time to the conversation. I knew I had 10 minutes, but I can pack a lot of information. So if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them later. Just a little bit of an analysis here. There will be actually an article published on how to make this food system circular, and it will be published, I think, next week. It's an article I wrote for Food Trails, where I explain more in detail the suggestions that come from the experiences that I have accumulated by working with these 11 cities. So The idea is that the food system, especially the public food system, is a complex network. And we have already monitoring frameworks like the Milan Urban Food Policy Pact, which is the framework under which we operate, of indicators and actions, suggested actions to be implemented in the public food systems. We have international regulations, we have national commitments, so that's the regulation part. We need to have a local strong governance, so the food policy team, agricultural policy, waste management, there's the local government, the governance that is in charge of implementing those actions suggested by the monitoring framework or by the regulations that can be national or international. We need to engage both the public and the private sectors, the citizens, the NGOs, all the organizations that can support this work. And we need to act on multiple levels of the value chains, whether it's production, distribution, preparation, consumption, and waste. And waste reconnects to production as well. For example, in consumption, it's more about the awareness, it's more about the citizens' awareness on food preservation, on food transformation, but at the same time, we need to retrain the chefs. How many of our chefs are trained on the HACCP, so on hygiene standards, but they're not trained on sustainability standards? This doesn't happen yet because the hygiene standards are something that has been demanded in the past decades, but sustainability standards are very new. And because the value chain got more and more diversified and complex and globalized, everybody is doing their little part. Each of the roles are very confined to what they do, without seeing the big picture. So anybody not many that work in the food system have a systemic view. They have an overview on the impacts of their job. They're just doing their job, basically. So there needs to be more of this training for sustainability and support, again, to logistics. We have faced many hurdles in this. For example, trying to see if we could recollect waste from school canteens and bring it back to for composting and to the farmers. But there are both regulatory hurdles. There are issues with, for example, contamination. There are many intricacies in a world that is designed in its infrastructure for a linear economy and not for a circular one. So regulations have been crystallizing the experience of a linear world, and now we have to change all of these towards circularity. This is no small feat. There's a lot that needs to happen infrastructurally to get there. We need to adapt our choices to climate and geographical context, and we need to make use of technologies, communication, and all different overarching structures to improve the network. And there's always the finance part, which is not negligible, finding money to support this change. There could be new tools coming up with the carbon budget allowances. So there could be tools for carbon reduction, financial tools that can support this shift, but it's not quite there yet. So it's a lot of preparatory work right now. Open questions to the cities, open questions that we ask to our cities in food trails. Who are the circular economy allies that you have access to? Who is already working in circular economy in your city and can help you gain the skills within the food policy team, within your operative team to retrain towards circular economy, for example? How much of your city food system is currently measured? This is the most important thing. It's access to data. We really need a lot of data, and waste is the least measured thing in everywhere, I think, in any industry. When you ask for data sets on production, on productivity, there's a lot, but on waste, really, we need to gather a lot more data, and we need to structure this data to understand where we can change. How much of the waste streams are currently measured? Does your city food system have a link with the rural area or not? And if so, how can we engage them in making the system more circular? What is the level of awareness of your citizens regarding food waste or packaging waste, for that matter? How much do kids know about food and where does it come from? Because this will help them waste less or accept new types of food that are more sustainable. A kilo of wasted meat has much more impact than a kilo of wasted apples. And so even that is somehow related to circular economy. And how much does the private sector know about food waste prevention? So again, retraining for not just hygiene standards, but sustainability standards. Okay. Last suggestions very quickly to policymakers is develop governance tools, a list of actions, a food policy, put together a team of experts that can support you and work with the other departments like environment, agriculture, food waste management, etc., even water department. It depends on the city governmental structure. Businesses collect data, measure change, reward innovation, incentivize, especially in the relationship between public and private, support with incentives the ones that do better, and reward the best practices. Sometimes challenge businesses between each other to do better. And the thing is that there will always be some allies, some business that will be more determined to change than the others. So those should be engaged first and then slowly enlarge the audience. And then lastly, the citizens recover the local knowledge, the local practices with a blend of also innovation and science. Talk to communities. We have the communities of practice in Milan. We try to always engage the most active citizens in giving us advice to implement change, and also use behavioral nudging for the ones that don't know yet that they should change, but behavioral nudging helps ease in the process. And tailor the activities for different groups. The message will be different for school kids or like social housing, or citizens that can be more open to change, or the ones that resist change. We have cities working with stadiums to reduce food waste, and that public is especially difficult sometimes. That's all from my side. I try to be as quick as possible. And I'll stop sharing now.
Sorry, thank you very much, Alice, for this nice presentation. Indeed, a very complex topic. I think it's difficult to cover everything in 10 minutes. So now it's time for questions. If anybody has any question, you can turn on your mic or just write it in the chat. If not, I can start until someone decides to do it. I was just wondering, because in the beginning you talk about these 3 principles of circularity. And do you know, for example, how much of the waste we are now producing can be transformed and included in this circular concept?
Well, in the food system, I would say the easiest way to reduce it is to transform it. Like one of the easiest ways to transform it into biogas, for example, to power industries. But the food waste can be also, depending on the types of food waste. I've done this research with private companies and with public administrations. You can recover coffee from the cafes or from industries that produce coffee to be sold. You can recover that waste to grow mushrooms, for example. You can recover chocolate waste. So it depends. Like food waste is lots of different things. If we want to make it really circular, there are more or less nutritious types of waste. Cooked food is worse for so raw food can be composted easily because it's raw food. It hasn't been seasoned. Cooked food is a bit more difficult. You cannot use too salty or seasoned food, for example, for agricultural fields as a compost. So it needs to be processed in many different ways. If you burn it, you don't have to do much about it. But again, you're creating like a biogas. So it's still a warming gas.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Okay, we have Anastasia. You want to ask something?
Yes, thank you very much. I want, and I know that to prevent food waste, I think it's the most important, because okay, we recover in a way, we try to do something with them, but another resources are consumed when we try to recover. So the prevention is one the most important issue. And I want to ask you, I know that there are cities that have a food policy in this way, and who or which organization is involved in a city or which department for this food policy, considering waste prevention, for probably for communication at different level and using different channels to educate people from very small to older one. So,
Yeah.
do you have some examples in this respect? Thank
So
you.
yes, oh, there's a lot. So for example, you can structure, if we talk about school canteens, which sometimes is a direct competence of the municipality, not everywhere, sometimes it's privatized, but if it's a direct competence of the municipality, you can structure your interaction with the supplier so that the supplier knows in advance how much food you need for which kind of menus. You prepare the menus, you study the menu with the nutritionist, and you create like a rotation menu. And in Milan, we have this example where the city is divided in 4 quadrants and we have 4 weeks menus. So it keeps rotating so that every day you will have the same supply of food, same request of ingredients to the supplier, so that the supplier always knows and reduces waste in the procurement process. In order to reduce waste in schools, you can, for example, study how much waste is generated and see if it's like what types of food, or if you can intervene by giving food at a different time of the day, or separating the 2 courses, or what kind of really behaviors you can change. And for this, you need some behavioral nudging experts. Sometimes if you put vegetables first, and then you give the main course, the kids will be more prone to eat the vegetables. If you give them directly the main course, they will leave out the vegetables. You can change the menu so that the waste is less intensive, so you can reduce meat in the menus. There are, or when you talk to citizens, it's about again, on one side behavioral nudging, on one, this answer is so complex. You know, if you want to engage the industries, or you can start by having a conversation with the industry and mapping their waste, understanding how much they waste. And one thing is, one industry's waste can be the source, can be a resource for another industry. So the first step, I would say, everywhere is data mapping and understanding the extent of what you can do. And then you need the help of experts to reduce the waste.
Yes, thank you. I think management and logistic of the things are very important to understand, but also to work together, because food waste are in different steps of food system. So yes, you are right. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we have also a last question from Thomas. Please, Thomas.
Yes, hello all, hello Alice, and thank you for the presentation. Wanted also to ask for if you have any examples, and even more specifically on the animal feeding, that is an opportunity to implement circular economy. But I believe, and my experience tells me, it's quite hard for many private business to identify what are the opportunities for animal feeding, although it is supposed to be the best solutions once you could not prevent food waste.
I'm not an expert in that, but I've seen startups. I work with the startup advisory, and there are startups that use seaweed to reduce for example, corn and soy that is fed to the animals. Or in Milan, we have this system to produce these like little canals. It's a very ancient system, canals that produce more hay, like 7 times the yield of hay in a year. So you can give more hay from a smaller field to your cows. There are ways to feed fish, for example, with insects instead of smaller fish. So there are carnivorous fish that eat smaller fish that are fished with trawlers. And this is very destructive for the ecosystem. But there are now startups that work with repurposing food waste into feed for insects that will be fed to the other big fish. So I would say first, we need to just reduce the amount of the request for meats. But at the same time, there is a huge world developing in the animal feeding, and it's just that it needs more research, but definitely there are solutions.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we need to end this discussion. And now we go to Sophia, to some of questions that we have prepared from you. So it's time to pay your bill.
And leave your tip, please.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so please scan the QR code at your left side, please, or just type slido.com and use the code that you have below and start to describe in a word your take-home message from this presentation. I will wait some minutes to do. I'm not seeing anyone here. Okay, it's starting. One participant typing. Please. We just have one.
It's not working very well, Sophia.
No?
No.
No.
Why?
Now it's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. For me, it works.
It should be working well. We already have 4 participants typing. 5. We are building here a word cloud for each of our Café talks that we will publish in future. 5. We are 18 participants, please, at least half engage with our pool, please. Well, complexity, it's winning here. And yeah, circular economy. 10 already, 1 still typing. Okay. Okay, so we have 12 participants. Thank you very much. And we have our word cloud where the words winning and standing out are complexity and circular economy. So we still have 1 participant typing. So I will wait because when I go further, okay, 13. Okay, so I go further and you cannot type again. So next, what do you think about the discussion? Many was left to discuss. There was nothing else to add. We need more talks on this topic. Okay. Of course, seeing from the huge complexity of the topic, we need more talks on this topic for sure. We can wait for the 2 more because we had 30 participants. I will wait for the 13, just a bit. Okay, 13 participant doesn't want to answer here, so I will go to the next one. How about the length of this Café talk? Was too long, was too short, or just about right? just about right. And participants already, 11. Okay. I go to the other one, 11, 12. At least we have our 12. 13 is not here. So, and how will you rate this cafe talk? "13 participants. Great. Yeah, very good talk. And which other topics you would like to discuss in the next cafe talks? You can put just one word if you want 2 words. I think it's enough to understand. Ethics. Legislation, how to nudge consumers to reduce food waste. We already have a talk about that. Predictive. Best practice, I think it's the next talk we have, prevention strategies. Legislation, it will be another one that we are, households also. Some of these topics are already predicted, but some are not, and we will look for them. We wait for our 13 participants engaged in our pool. Okay, so I think we don't want going to wait more. I think we have here one participant but I think in the last question, 13. It is the first time I joined this club, but will be to hear about benefits of food waste prevention laws at the EU level, data about the environment and economy. Thanks very much for your answers, and you can.
Yes, I will take it over. Yes, I will take it over, and I try to be fast because we are already 4 minutes more on the time. So I just want you to save the date. The next Café Talk will be on June 21st at 11 o'clock again. And we will have a talk about best practices to reduce food loss and waste. I saw this was one of the topics you are interested in. And the talk will be given by Federica Grant from Food and Nutrition Research Center. And the next one will be then in July, on the 19th of July. And then we will hear a talk about the Italian Observatory on Food Losses and Waste, Policies and Action. So policies, I think it's also a hot topic on this area. And the talk will be given by Laura Rossi, again from the Food and Nutrition Research Center. And with this, I would like to thank you for your participation. Just follow Wasteless social media website to have the link to register for the next monthly Café Talk and to be aware with the events we are preparing in this project. So thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed the café.